All right. Welcome to the Women's ZRL Recon with FemCycle Collab. This week we are coming to you as faceless voices, but we do have Beccah Niesen and
Britt, Litton.
Wood. So we are still unable to figure out how to do this with audio and visual, but we'll get there with your help. So this week we're talking about triple flat loops, which is kind of a misnomer because there are like quite a few punchy climbs. Um, Not punchy. Sorry, they're not punchy, but there are tiny climbs which you really do have to address. And this is the one time that I'm not using VeloViewer because I find it to be very confusing for this course, and you can't identify where there's any geographical features on the VeloViewer because it's so long and the climbs are not very steep. So I'm using the Zwift Insider route profile instead, which I like less for the most part. But in this case, you can see that there actually are geographical features you need to think about when you're riding. So it's 36.3 kilometers long and 162 meters of climbing.
Which
Now,
is not a lot, really.
yeah,
162 meters.
it's not a
The
lot.
bumps are small bumps,
Yeah,
but could be very important.
yeah, and it really makes it hard to do the one thing that I say you need to do, which is not slow down. So I'm gonna I'm playing the video right now. We'll start out of the desert gates. And Britt, what is your strategy for the flat desert? What is your approach?
So to start, I would be getting two of the strongest riders to send it out of the pen and then getting everyone to form into a line after that. And then you want to get the speed up quick and you want to keep it up.
All right.
So the most important thing will be everyone hitting it hard out of the pen and then making sure you hold your position in the line and probably starting with a 60-second pull on the front for the first person just to make sure everything settles in behind, and then from that drop it down to 30 or 45 seconds. And you really do want to make sure that you're within the 4 meters between you and the person ahead of you,
I do think it's interesting that
and then making sure that your rotations are steady too.
yeah, and that comes down to having a plan and understanding who's used to riding with who and whose riding style works well together. Because some women like to be closer than that 4 meters, um,
Mm.
and it if you don't all leave your mics on and listen to each other heavy breathing, sometimes it's hard to understand like what someone's doing. And somebody might be giving 4 meters and then somebody else might think, oh, I'm afraid of being dropped, so I want to be right up on someone. And without having your mics open, it's hard to know whether someone is gapping or whether someone is just trying to find that spot in the draft, because you don't want someone to just
Maybe
jump around you.
that's maybe that's this week's challenge within the challenge, is to make sure everyone keeps their mics off mute for the entire race, because it is actually quite fun in a sadistic way to listen to other people suffering,
Yeah.
because then if you can hear them suffering and you're actually suffering too, it usually makes me feel a bit better about feeling like shite
Yeah.
when I can hear other people are actually in a worse place than me.
Likes helps you cheer them on. So the
Obvious, yes, to cheer them on.
so the
That's the
fuego,
one.
yeah, the fuego flats. So I think I have as our course notes, pick a speed and then a long line gives you the best draft. So there are only a couple places in this first 10K that you really need to be hyper aware. And I wish I had the Velo viewer to show, but um, it's these little tiny bumps that you hit that you just need to address so that you don't slow down. And if you're doing a speed based target, you can say person at the front can always notice, if their speed starts to drop, whether it's 40 kilometers an hour or 45. If they start going down 2 to 5 kilometers per hour, then you're like, all right, so you need to push harder here. So um, in the video,
Yeah.
I'm right about the spot where that little bump is. It's where you go through the oasis.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a very gradual, you might not even notice it unless you're paying attention to your speed and to the grade. It goes up to, I think, 3%. So a little up, a little down. But if you are having someone, if you're rotating in that spot, it's right at 5 kilometers, I see on the video. Right at that spot, you rotate. The person pushes hard over the cap. The front person has to push harder. Again, we've talked about how you slow down faster if you're at the front. And then it's over by 5.2. So then you start going down again. So then the
Yeah.
last
I
person.
think the important thing for this type of race is to make sure you've all got the same trainer difficulty. Because if you do run a low trainer difficulty, you won't feel these little bumps as much as someone who runs at 100% trainer difficulty. They'll feel every little bump. So I like 75% personally, but just make sure that you pick something that's consistent across all of the riders.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, we're gonna skip ahead here just a little bit because the rest of the desert has very little to talk about.
Boring.
Yeah, but there is a lot of speed lost if you're not pushing it here, and I think like this is not one of those races that is usually won by a lot or lost by a lot. It's one of those races that can be tight at the top, especially. So in the desert, pick a high speed, do many rotations if you can, 30 seconds. Just have a plan and execute the plan. So here we are at 9.8. Britt, how do you guys think about these types of short climbs?
We would pick a watts per kg here for the 900 meters, and in I'd like to think it was around 5 to 5.2 watts a kg on the front, just to keep everyone up together. And it is early on, so you will have quite a lot of energy still, but you don't want to blow anyone up. So pick a watts per kg that is on the higher end of your category. And then you want your strongest climber, whoever that may be, to sit near the back and then bridge any gaps that might open up, because it's less than a kilometre. So you do get a wee rest over the top as well. How would you play it, Beccah?
We actually do similar in the women that I have TTT'd with, where you either have a watts per kilo at the front, or you just continue rotations, because that type of climb where it's less than 5% is still pretty draftable. We do try to protect those riders that we know that are going to struggle as they come into that climb. So, if your weakest rider, or, weakest in the TTT style, is coming to that climb and is coming off the front, they're going to want to rest. And if you're all pushing it at a watt per kilo, it's really difficult for them to recover afterwards, and you can kind of blow them up. In the video, we're actually hitting 12.3, which is my next spot. It's a teeny tiny climb, but it's one of those that I would do the opposite of a controlled approach to it, which is like everybody push for 10 seconds. So
Unhinged. Love it.
yeah, but just just a little dig, because again, you don't want to slow down.
Yeah.
Every time you slow down, it takes energy to speed back up. Jen Mraz had done this great graphic for, I think she did it for OTR, and then she put it on the FemCycle Collab Discord server, and then Eric put it into an article. So it is available on Swift Insider, and it is amazing. And she has a lot of tactics recommendations in graphics form for TTTs.
Nice.
And one of them
Ooh.
is, like, don't blow everyone else up, and like push on the downhills. I love that. I just love like it's very simple. the graphics are simple, it's easy to understand, and it also makes you realize sometimes that the greatest strength is the team and not your individual contribution to it. So in the video, we're right around 14.5. This is the rise to Ocean Boulevard right here at 14.6. This is another one of those Saddle Springs-esque climbs where it's not very steep, not very long. Do you do the same thing where you have your strongest person in reserve for that type of climb, or do you do more of a unhinged killer approach?
Yeah, less likely to need covering on such a short one at the back. So it is just pick a watts per kg here and send it over the top and then rearrange, because you'll likely form into a bunch. So you'll rearrange your pace line as you come out of the tunnel.
Yeah, I do
Because like you say, you don't want to slow down. So if you can all get over together, then you're going to have an advantage of time there.
Yeah, I do think that my problem with the that one segment is you get over that hill and then there's the false flat up to like past the track leading to downtown. So I do sometimes worry that we'll tire people out too much pushing it in like the unhinged approach, so we try not to do that one there. We try not to do it for anything over
I guess
like 10 seconds. So
to be unhinged, you'd still just pick a watts per kg that's within a reasonable target.
Right.
Like you don't want to be going up at 10 watts a kg.
I mean, I do want.
Or maybe you do.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you
want
do.
to be. I don't want to actually execute it, but I wish I could do that. So then we're coming out of downtown, and we're going to turn towards the S's. You hit the S's twice in this course. The first is at 17 kilometers, and the second is at almost 24. So how do you take on the S's? What do you think about them?
Less likely to be in a pace line. So if you do find yourself on the front through momentum, because in our team especially we have quite a lot of variance in weight. So for me, I usually pull through to the front on the descents and then into the climbs. So if you do find yourself on the front, just take a 15-second pull, and then likely someone else is going to come past you on either the climb or the downhill anyway. And then once you're out of there, you can get back into your organised pace line if you want, or form a new pace line order.
Yeah, I do find that these downhills, I'm almost always the heaviest rider on my team. And I do find that I will move to the front in those, the middle of the descent through the bottom. And as you're going up the next hill on the S's, I almost always find myself in front for those. And then the faster, lighter riders will pass me on the ups. And so we don't worry about rotation timing. It's more like when you find yourself at the front, just give a little dig and continue to help accelerate.
And it is really important to talk to each other during those sections too.
Yeah. The camaraderie of heavy breathing and laughing at each other heavy breathing cannot be undersold, right? Or cannot be oversold, because it's so awesome.
Get a lot of Red Bull consumed in the races I'm in as well, so often you'll hear a nice burp thrown in the mix.
We don't have,
and not always from me.
Yeah, not always.
And I think it's been a really successful race when you hear vomiting at the end.
Ooh. Yeah, but then that has that like trigger effect for everybody. That's
or like a yawn. It's contagious.
Yeah. I mean, when somebody starts puking in front of you, you're definitely like, oh no, it's gonna happen to me too. No. So we're on the volcano in the video.
So we missed the dirty suppressor.
Well, it's the dirty suppressor descent. So
right, yeah. That's nice.
At 21.5, we do have the volcano punch, and that one I think of more of like that tiny dig that I had mentioned earlier, because it's not very long and there's 2 turns to it. So you come around the corner it's steep, and then you're going to go around another corner, and there's another little part of it. But even when I'm with Diego or one of the D bots, I still find myself doing the same thing, which is just stand up and hit that one fast if you can. What about you? Are you more on the steady climb, or are you?
I think we would bunch up again, to be honest,
And just
because
go off the
these are the
kilometers?
places where these places are going to be where you lose the race, because everyone can go the same speed on the flats
Yeah.
and the descents.
Yeah.
But you can either make up heaps of time on the climbs, or you can lose heaps of times.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, because that one hits 8% right at the beginning for, I think, like 10 meters. So it's not very long, but if you don't
Long
hit
enough.
it, yeah, if you don't hit it, it's kind of one of those, oh, you're suddenly going 20 kilometers an hour, and then you have to push it back up to speed. And again, every time you have to close gaps or accelerate, you're really burning through a lot of your energy. So now we're going through the volcano, and we're going to head back towards the S's. And I figure we can go through just a couple recommendations for the race while we do this, because there's not a lot of different geography to talk about. I would say, like, one of the key things for me on this course would be to fuel, because it is pretty long for a TTT, and because it's not just a scratch race where you're sitting in, you're burning through your stores. And so one of our team members almost always reminds everyone to drink water or whatever you
That's
have.
handy.
Yeah. And then I'm usually saying you need to eat, right? Like, you need to have some calories in, or as you get to the end, you're going to be really flagging. You might have to skip pulls. So what do you think is the crucial part of this one?
I think knowing your role and doing it well, whatever that is. So if you are a stronger climber, then your role might be to look after the other people in your team on the climbs. Or if you are a TT specialist, your role will be holding a steady position in the pace line, because in this race in particular, on with all the bumps, like if you find yourself getting too close in third position, if you're getting too close to second position, then you can push second position out, and then that makes them go all the way to the back. So then you'll have to go into second position. So if you, pick your role, whatever it is, just do it well.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of TTT calculators out there. The one that I like the most uses intensity factor. So when you input all the data, it gives you how hard someone's kind of working over the entire course. And if they're so far out from other people, you're probably going to lose them, right? If they're at 1.2 and the rest of the field and the rest of your group is at 0.95, you might lose that person, and so you can figure that into your plan, or you can try to adjust their order, right? So if they're sitting in fifth position and first, second, and third positions do 1 minute pulls, and fourth position does 30-second pulls, then the fifth position person is kind of saved a little bit by not having to be in second position as long. So there's things that you can do to help try to keep people together.
Tactically, they could just do no pull.
Yeah.
And have them in the group.
I've done that.
Or tactically, you could plan to drop them as well. Like, as we've said in the other TTT Recon, there's no shame, or like, you don't have to be disappointed if you get dropped. That might be your role, is you might go at 15 kilometers, you might do a 2-minute pull to let everyone else have a rest, and then that's you for the day. Come off and just make sure you finish the race, because you only need 4 over the finish line as your finishing time.
I like that idea that there should be no shame. Like, we say that you shouldn't have to say sorry.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, so everyone's out there doing their best, and like this type of thing can be hard for certain types of riders. Like, very lightweight riders would have a hard time on this course because there's a lot of flats, and so they have to work a little harder in flat courses, and so protecting them is just kind of like you need to think about protecting them. because they're part of your team and they're contributing to your team. So let them do what they can.
Everyone's there for the same reason, which at the end of the day is to have fun, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, I don't think people think about protecting riders as much on TTTs as they do in like climbing courses. You know, you'll have a rider like me that's quite heavy that's like, oh, I can't climb. And then in the climbing race, you think about trying to protect them or trying to do something for them to save them a little. But in TTTs, nobody thinks in the reverse, and I think more should. So the course continues to roll, and I only skipped once. In previous weeks, I've like just skipped all over the place, so I feel very good about this.
Well done. Achievement.
Thank you. And then we're going to go down to the ocean tunnel again at 31.7, but we already saw that. So there's not much more to talk about in the geography. I think we talked about how long the course is probably going to take, and for a women, because this is a women-centric recon, right? You had said maybe 45, 46.
Yeah, 45 to 46, something around there.
And then in the Bs, I think we're looking more between 49 to 55. And then Cs probably 53 to 57 would be my guess. And then Ds probably 50, maybe 56 to well over an hour, which is a long race, which goes back to the fuel comment. And in the video, I'm at 30.3, so I'm going to skip ahead.
If you go back to the results on the WTRL TTT page, it has all the results from the last TTT that was done on that course. So if you find the right category, you can, like Vienna Mocha winning time was 53:51.
That's quite fast.
So that's fast. That's with 8 riders.
And Vienna Mocha can be mixed. I think you can have up to like 3 Cs maybe.
They were all Cs by the looks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's a C. C team 53 to 50. Oh, some are taking an hour 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a D. All D team took an hour 10.
Yeah. And especially if you're racing for that long, you need to fuel. So
yeah, at least drink.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now in the video, we're hitting the last rise, which is out of the tunnel, which is right at 31.8 kilometers. And then after you get over it, you turn back towards the desert, so you have a little bit more of that climb. And that's just a struggle to get back up to speed. I find that on this course, because it's long, this is a hard spot to get back up to speed.
Yeah. And there's still 5K to go.
Yeah. And it's that bridge that's longer than you think. And because it's so far into the race, it's much harder than you think to get back up to speed afterwards.
It's much steeper when you're in the depths of hell.
Yeah. And it's not quite at the finish, because if the finish was where the pens were, you might be like, I can make it, but it's not. You still got 3K to go at that point. So I think I'm ready to do race song suggestion. What is your pick?
My pick for this week's race song, I'm not sure I can actually sing it, but it's Tokyo Drift by Teriyaki Boys, and I was inspired by the hit movie Fast and Furious.
I like it. And we would play it, except for then we'd be banned in Belarus. And there's the potential that someone might eventually want this, recon in Belarus. So
Belarus has to see it.
Yeah. And my suggestion is Push the Tempo by Subfocus, which I only picked.
What inspired that?
Merely the title. But but it is also a good song, and it's an EDM song. And Britt and I were talking about maybe making a Spotify playlist of all of our recommendations so that we can give them to you in a list, and you won't have to worry if you are in Belarus that it would be blocked. So I think that's all we got. We are rounding the corner to the finish in the video, so I think we can just give our goodbyes, and I will stop the video when we run down to 0. Any final words, Britt?
Have fun. Good luck. Talk to each other. And if you find there's still 6 of you at the end for the last 400 meters, it would be a really good time to practice your sprints.
Oh yeah, we have a sprinter who's also good at everything else, which is annoying because she's just
Rude.
yeah, rude.
Name call her out. Name and shame.
Vanessa. Vanessa is always, right at the finish line. She's got a really deep well, so she can always just finish it off in a way that is spectacular. And when she passes you in those final 200 meters, you're like, oh no, go with Vanessa. So she's kind of she's both very good, and it's very annoying to try to keep up with her. And yeah, have fun. Good luck. And